This is Mexico, but during the early 1800s, this place was called New Spain. This is Don Miguel. Don Miguel is a priest. Recently, though, Don Miguel has been getting into trouble with the Roman Catholic Church. He's been reading forbidden French books that teach about equality. Equality wasn't exactly a thing in New Spain. The Spanish-born peninsularies had all the power. They can make the Mexican-born Creoles, as well as the Indian natives and Indian Spanish mestizos, to do whatever the Spanish wanted. Don Miguel was a Creole, a Mexican-born man, and the idea of equality was a revolutionary one, so his equality-teaching books nearly got him fired. But the church in the town of Dolores needed a priest, so he was still in the job. The Spanish-born peninsularies were just as jerky in Dolores as they were anywhere else. But Don Miguel made the most of the situation, until some Spanish soldiers came and burned down his grapevines. Apparently, grapes were forbidden in the Spanish colonies. September 16, 1810, right after his church had finished celebrating Mass, Don Miguel called for a revolution against Spain. Yeah, he really liked those grapevines, but it worked! Everyone in his congregation agreed that they lived long enough under a bad government, and the rebellion of New Spain began. Don Miguel's speech was repeated to others, and soon Don Miguel had an army of 20,000 new Spanish guys. Together, they attacked and took over the city of Guanajuato. Over 500 men and women were killed before Don Miguel, now Captain Hidalgo, could calm his army down. Next, the army marched on Mexico City, but Captain Hidalgo ordered a retreat. He didn't want more innocent people to be killed. Then, the Spanish soldiers inside Mexico City attacked the unsuspecting New Spain army, scattering them. Captain Hidalgo and much of his army were captured. Captain Hidalgo was still a priest, though, and because the Spanish army couldn't execute a priest without the church's permission, the governor of New Spain simply unpriested Don Miguel. And then he had him executed. So much for the revolution. This is Jose Maria Morelos y Pavon. Jose Maria Morelos y Pavon is also a priest, and was one of Don Miguel's commanders during the First Revolution. After Don Miguel's execution, Jose Maria Morelos y Pavon and his men wrote a constitution that said that all men of New Spain were equal. And like Don Miguel, they led a revolt against the Spanish. And like Don Miguel, Jose Maria Morelos y Pavon was captured and executed. This revolution really needs a leader who won't die. This is Agustin de Iturbide. Like Don Miguel, Agustin de Iturbide was a Mexican-born man. Unlike Don Miguel, Agustin de Iturbide was loyal to the Spanish. He even fought against Don Miguel during the First Revolution. And Jose Maria Morelos y Pavon, too. Agustin de Iturbide wanted a medal, a very special medal that showed how brave and loyal he was, but because he was a Mexican-born man, the Spanish refused to give him the medal. Agustin de Iturbide was angry and humiliated, and began plotting Spain's overthrow behind the Spanish army's back. Agustin got his army officer bros together and explained his plan. The 3 guarantees: 1, that New Spain would be its own kingdom called Mexico; 2, that Roman Catholicism would be the official religion; and 3, that all Mexico's people would be equal. The officers liked the plan. Agustin and his bros joined forces with the Mexican revolutionaries. Together, they marched on Mexico City and ordered the Spanish governor to step down, which he did. August 24th, 1821, Spain signed a treaty giving Mexico its independence. Olé! The King's Coronation, 1822. After some discussion as to whether Mexico should be ruled by a republic or ruled by a king, Augustine was elected Emperor Augustine I of Mexico. Emperor Augustine kinda sucked at being a ruler though. He spent a ton of money, and when the Mexican Congress refused to obey him, he threw them in jail.
Here comes the money.
After 9 months of this crap, a general named Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna called for a revolt against Emperor Augustine. Augustine ran away to Italy. And with Augustine out of the way, the Mexican Congress wrote up a constitution. Mexico would now be a republic. Augustine, meanwhile, wasn't safe in Italy. His enemies wrote to him, saying that they totally wanted him back and that the people would totally welcome him. Augustine returned to Mexico. There he was captured and then executed. You would think he would have seen that coming.
Right after his trip, I finished celebrating. Mission: the governor of Spain simply unappreciated.
This looks so not okay. It looks so weird.
1952, after some discussion as to whether Mexico should be a republic or rule by and like Don Miguel, Jose Maria Morelos y Pavon, Spain signed a treaty giving Mexico its independence.